Hello friends, welcome back to Maple Bay Potager. My name is Faye and today we are going to be starting some more seeds for the mini meadow. Today the seeds that we're starting are mostly not natives, but most of them are still pollinator plants and some of them are natives. So I have all of my jugs ready to go. I'm gonna move my camera down. I already have all my labels ready to go, just the same as in the last video. So I only have 2 jugs this time that are one snail. I'm gonna have one variety, and I already have them labeled as well. So the first variety is a native, and it is called Blanket Flower. This is one of my favorite flowers. I know I say that about a lot of them, but I love a lot of them. This is an annual, which means that it won't come back, like the same plant won't survive the winter and come back year to year. Sometimes it will go to seed where I live, but I want to make sure that I have lots of them. So I'm just gonna sprinkle these in here and try and keep them reasonably spread out. But I don't think these are very big seedlings. This seed is a few years old, so I am gonna sprinkle extra than I think I need. This is a plant that pollinators love, and it does really well in like dry, sandy soil. Or soil that doesn't have a lot of nutrients. It grows wild in ditches and places like that. I've seen it grow in gravel. So if you need a plant that you don't need to baby, this is a great plant. And if you deadhead them, they will keep flowering right up until the frost. This is a really easy plant to save seed off of as well. So our next jug is going to be our native straight species Rudbeckia. Rudbeckia hirta, I think is how you say it. And these are just some seeds that I actually pulled off of a dried flower arrangement that I had in my living room because I didn't save any seeds from these last year. I mostly just let them go to seed in my garden, so I don't know how viable these seeds will be, but we'll see. So I am gonna plant all of them. These are little teeny tiny seeds and they make little teeny tiny seedlings to start out with, so I'm gonna plant them pretty close together. Plus, like I said, I don't know if any of them are gonna germinate. But I would love it if they all did. This is another beautiful plant that will flower right up until the frost. And the pollinators love it. And it's a very fall flower. I don't know if you can see those petals there, but that golden sunny yellow is just so nice in the late summer and fall garden. And I found this year that they dry nicely too. This is another plant that can be an annual depending on where you live and if it does perennialize. I believe It's kind of a short-lived perennial. But I'm pretty new to growing this plant. But this did grow wild out at my grandparents' place. It's native to where I live. I ran out of tags, so this one has one variety on one side and the other variety on the other side, and so I'm just gonna put the tag right in the middle of my two seed snails, and so the side facing each snail will be labeled with what's in the snail, if that makes sense. So in this one we're going to have, I believe these are Earl Grey Larkspur, but I forgot to label them, so they're gonna be a surprise. They could be any delphinium or larkspur that I've saved seed off of. We will find out together. And because I'm hoping this is Earl Grey Larkspur, I'm gonna plant a lot of this, because it's a really pretty plant. And I didn't have the best germination the last time I tried to grow it. So I'm gonna be pretty liberal with these. So on the other side, I have some seed I saved from my Nana's delphinium, but I haven't had good luck getting these to germinate. I probably did something wrong saving them, I'm not sure. So I'm also going to plant, I got these Pacific Giant delphinium in a seed swap that I did, I think last year. So I'm going to plant a bunch of these seeds that I got off my Nana's delphinium. And we'll just see if we can get some to sprout. And I'm gonna plant, I think, all of these delphinium seeds that I have left from the seed swap. Hopefully I have a better time getting these to germinate. I believe that delphinium and larkspur are native to North America, but I'm gonna have to double check that. I do know that the native bees really like them, and I really like them. They're beautiful, and they're a nice early flower, and again, they're blue, and I love blue. Because I made all of these snugs in advance, I have been watering them. I've just been bottom watering them because they're not planted yet. I'm just gonna take a second and mist them so that the soil is nice and moist before I get my seeds in there, because after I plant my seeds, I don't want to spray and disrupt them. So next up, I have a foxglove mix that we're gonna put in one side of this jug. So I have a purple foxglove that my friend Jackie gave me in a seed swap. I just have a little shallow glass dish. I'm gonna sprinkle some of these foxglove seeds onto. And then I have a jar with just a little tiny bit of water. And then I just have a little toothpick. I'm gonna dip it into that water. And then I'm gonna use this to pick up my seeds, because So I'm hoping that these have good germination. And these are a seedling that if they do germinate, they get pretty big pretty fast in my experience. So I want to give them lots of space. I've never had luck getting foxgloves to bloom. I've planted them a couple times, and I think that maybe I've planted them in areas that are too shaded. So I figured I have these seeds. I'm gonna try some in the meadow and see what happens. Foxgloves are biennial, meaning that they won't bloom until the second year. They're not a perennial, so they're not gonna come back after that second year, but you do have to wait until the second year for them to bloom. Just a couple extra here and there in case some of those first ones don't germinate. And then I'm also going to be planting a variety that is called Pam's Choice, which are really pretty. These are the ones that I've planted a number of times. I have gotten them to sprout. I've gotten them to survive their first year, but not their first winter. Is usually what happens, I think. It's been a couple years since I tried. Got a little discouraged when they weren't surviving, but I'm going to be planting them in a lot sunnier spot this time, so hopefully that helps. Because these are older seed, I am just going to plant all of them. And if I need to thin them out or pot some up into different containers, I can do that. Now watch, all of these are going to germinate, and I'm going to have a forest of foxgloves to plant. And in the other side, we are going to be planting honeywort. I'm not sure, again, if this is a native, but the bees really love it. The native bees really love it. And it is a really pretty plant, and again, it is a blue plant. We can see these are a much bigger seed. So they're going to need to be planted a bit deeper. These are seed that I saved. And I think they're probably going to have pretty good germination. So I'm just going to plant one in each hole. And these are a bigger seedling similar to the foxglove. So I think they'll do okay together. One shouldn't shade the other out. They should be able to compete. But if you are doing multiple varieties in one jug, that is something to think about. You don't want to plant something that's going to get really big with something that grows really slow and stays really small. Foxglove seeds need light to germinate, so I'm just going to cover these up with vermiculite. I'm going to do the same for the blanket flower and the rudbeckia because they also need light to germinate. So these larkspur and delphinium are going to need dark to germinate. So I'm going to cover them with some soil. maybe this has been my problem, getting these to germinate. Okay, next I think we will plant some violas. So first I have Back to Black viola, which is one of my favorites. It's a very small black viola with like purple and gold in the center. It's not a native, but I really, really like this one. And they have survived a winter for me. Sometimes pansies and violas will make it through the winter here. Sometimes they won't. I'm gonna plant quite a bit of these. I want lots. Pansies are a seed that needs darkness to germinate. So I will be covering these with soil. I am sowing this pretty heavily in here. Because I can prick some of these out and pot them up if too many germinate. I really love to put violas along the borders of my beds, my flower beds especially, because they're just so little and cute. They don't block your view of anything, but fill in that kind of bottom space, that understory. So on the other side here, I'm gonna be planting a variety called Swiss Giants, which are a bigger pansy, and they are a variety of colors. Most of them, I think all of them, are bicolor. I'm not gonna sow these quite as thick as the black violas because they are a bigger seedling. And I've already planted these seeds this year inside and had pretty good germination, so I think that these should germinate good for me. Now I need to cover these with soil. Because like I said, violas and pansies need dark to germinate. I'm not going to be covering these with very much soil because they are a little seed and they do produce a pretty small seedling compared to a lot of other ones. So I want to make sure that I'm not burying them too deep. But just enough that they are covered. Our last variety that needs to be covered, that needs darkness to germinate, is tall top verbena. So I'm gonna do a snail of that because I want lots and lots of verbena. I will probably also direct sow this after my last frost. So I'm gonna save some of these seeds. And hopefully all of these germinate. And so again, if all of these germinate, I will probably need to thin them, and I might even pot some of them on because like I said, I want lots and lots of this plant. This is I don't know that this is native, but I do know that pollinators, especially butterflies, really love it. And I really like that it is a taller plant, but it is kind of like lollipop style, where it has a really thin stalk and then the flower is on top like a little pom-pom, like multiple little pom-poms, I guess. But I like that you can plant it in and amongst things, and it kind of provides some interest and some movement without blocking the view of what you've planted around it or behind it. So again, these are really small seeds. I don't want to cover them too much, but I do want to make sure that they are covered and are not being exposed to too much light so that they will germinate. With the verbena, I think I'm gonna do some snow cloth alyssum. I've never grown this before. I do know that it is a plant that beneficial insects really like, but I also know that it is a plant that pests really like. I think it is in the Brassica family. And so I'm not sure if this will just get all ate up, but I have the seeds and I have seen some pictures of alyssum planted, kind of like I was talking about with the violas, as a border plant, like along pathways and edges, where it's kind of a shorter plant that provides something in that lower space visually. I think I'm gonna plant all the seeds I have. I have no idea if these are gonna be big seedlings or little seedlings. I've never grown them. They look like little seeds, so maybe they'll be little seedlings. Can find out. And because this is called snow cloth alyssum that I have here, I imagine that these will be white. And my plan with these plants is to plant them, like I said, along the edge of the meadow. I kind of want to go from like shortest plants at the edge to the tallest plants at the fence, so that you can see everybody. And so those do not need to be covered, but I am gonna just use a little bit of vermiculite. So I don't want those to dry out. Okay. Apparently squishing these snugs into here like I did has made the bottom a different shape from the top of the jug. Makes it really hard to not mess things around as I'm closing these. So that is something to think about if you're doing this, and something for me to remember for next year. I think if I had made the snugs a little shorter than I did, this wouldn't be so disruptive. Both of these are annuals. Okay, next up is some seed that I got in a swap this year. This is Maltese Cross, also called Bishop's Cross. I don't plant a whole lot of red flowers, but I'm gonna try this one. I believe it is a perennial. And so none of the rest of the seeds that we're planting today need to be covered. So I'm just gonna use vermiculite. They all need light to germinate. So she sent me quite a lot of these. I've never grown Maltese cross before, so I don't know what to expect. Other than I looked them up and they are red, and like I said, I believe they are a perennial where I live. I'm probably sowing more than I need. And with the Maltese cross, we are going to be planting some woodland sage. I don't actually know if this is perennial or not. I've tried to plant this a number of times and never gotten it to germinate, and I wonder if I didn't look up that it needs light to germinate, I might have buried it. So it was probably my fault it didn't germinate, but I'm gonna plant whatever I have left in this little seed pack. See if we can't get some of these this year. So woodland sage is a salvia, and they have really pretty purple flowers, which I think is pretty typical of salvia. And I believe it is a perennial. This one I did the snails a bit shorter, and I'm not messing it up as I'm trying to tape it up here. So I was also gifted this in a seed swap. Blue Fama Scabiosa, which I believe is another perennial, and it is blue, which is my favorite. Side. Now these look like bigger kind of seeds. Don't think I'm gonna be quite as liberal with these. And on the other side, like I said, we are going to do Feverfew, which is a perennial, or at least this variety is. I'm not sure if all Feverfew is perennial or not. But this is a nice filler for bouquets. I have never grown this before, so I don't know what to expect. These are teeny tiny seeds, so I think they'll make little tiny seedlings. I'm gonna actually direct sow some of this in the mini meadow too. We'll see what happens. But maybe I'll just grow these first and see what I think. I like to get a little carried away in the springtime with seed starting, so maybe we'll just simmer down. I'm gonna be planting some more of my seed swap seeds. Thank you again. And these are scarlet peony poppies. And then I have seed that I saved for black peony poppies. And I ran out of tags, so I just labeled the jug and kind of drew a line where it's going to be divided between the two varieties. Oh wow, there's so many in here. I will probably be direct seeding some of these too. So poppies don't like to be transplanted. They don't like their roots disturbed. So in these seed snails, what I will do is transplant them in chunks. So I'm gonna sow these pretty thick, but I'm not gonna be trying to individually transplant these out. I will be sowing them, or transplanting them rather, in clumps. Poppies are another one that need light to germinate. So we will be using the vermiculite again to cover these. It's probably a lot more than we need, but that's okay. Again, I would always rather have too many and thin them than not have enough. So I'm not sure about the scarlet peony poppies, but I know that the black peony poppies are a bread seed poppy, which means that you can eat them in, like, you know, lemon poppy seed loaf or whatever, things like that. So I saved a lot of seeds off of these, but I also use it for cooking, or rather baking. I don't grow California poppies. I don't prefer them. Not to yuck anybody's yum, but to me they smell like cat pee, and I don't prefer that personally. I also don't plant a whole lot of that kind of orange. Like, I don't really prefer marigolds because they're another orange one. I grow calendula, but I usually grow like I think the variety I like is called strawberry blonde. And so it's not that typical bright orange calendula. It is a bit more muted, and some of them are bicolor. But yeah, I just don't prefer orange, and I don't know, maybe the Californian poppies come in all different colors, but most of the ones that I see people grow around here are orange and they smell like happy, and they're not for me. So I grow lots of bread seed poppies. There's another kind that I have that I got in a swap, and they're just called Fairy Mix. And I don't believe that they're a bread seed poppy, but they're not a California poppy. So that's all our jugs planted for today. I don't know that I will be doing a lot more winter sowing. I'm actually out of milk jugs. So this might be our last winter sowing video for this year. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me while we planted these snugs together. I can't wait for all of these flowers to come up, and let me know in the comments, are you growing any snugs? Are you doing any winter sowing? What are you really excited for this year? I would love to know. So thanks again for watching, and happy growing, friends. I'll see you on the next one.